Well, thank you very much, Kevin. It's fascinating how weather has an effect not only in the yield that you guys get from the farm, but also in the freight and then also in the price. So thank you very much. Now, Mary is coming to show us and tell us about the NASA Harvest Consortium and all the partnerships that we're doing around. Thank you, Mary.
Thanks. All right, first of all, thank you all so much for having me today. My name is Mary Mitkish. I am the Assistant Program Manager for NASA's Food Security and Agriculture Program. We are known as NASA Harvest. And my talk today is going to be kind of high level, introducing our program, but I also want to make it very well known to you all that really it is farmers who are shaping our activities. We had an excellent question from the gentleman up front earlier today about how do we take all this great research, all these things that we know, and put this information into your hands. How can you make decisions based off of it, right? And that is the goal of our program. So I'm gonna pop quiz you, if I can, there we go. Okay, pop quiz. Raise your hand if you already knew that NASA had an agriculture program before you came to Farmer to Farmer today. Okay, all right. Harder question. Raise your hand if you know why NASA has an agriculture program. Okay, I see a little more of that. Yeah, okay. Great. So I'll start off with a story. You guys have probably all heard of the Great Grain Robbery that happened. The event happened back in the 70s. And this was kind of the first time where NASA went, whoa, okay, we need to understand global agricultural monitoring. For those who aren't familiar with the story, basically what happened is the Soviet Union at the time had made a very large grain purchase from the US, and then later on in the season, there was a huge drought. We were not able to produce, our stores were low, and we had to buy back our own grain at exceptionally increased prices, right? So this was kind of the red flag of, whoop, okay, we need to keep track of what's going on here. This is a major industry. And NASA has so much useful satellite data and information that can feed back into our system so we can really understand the global picture of what's going on. So with that, back in 2017, NASA established our consortium, the NASA Harvest Consortium. And our goal is really to take all this great technology, data, information, and bring it back to end users, right? What's the point of knowing, how much yield, how the soil quality, all of these great things that we can see from satellite data, but no one can actually use the information to do anything useful with it. So that's why our program was established. That's where we come in. And we're now up to around 50 partners around the world. Our approach is really to work directly with end users, right? We will not support a project. We won't start doing work on something if we don't have someone out there saying, hey, we need this. We need the data. We need the information. There's no point in us creating some great, wonderful, highly technological, robust tool that no one has access to. So what? Why are we here? Who cares, right? We're here because our programmatic focus, as I mentioned, is really making that transition from research to operations. And we know we can only do that through stakeholder engagement, right? We're looking to farmers, to private sector, to NGOs, to humanitarian organizations to tell us what information is missing in your systems, right? And how can we provide that to you? How can we integrate, whether it's creating a new tool or integrating with maybe some of the mobile apps you're already using for farm management, for example? How can we improve the things that you are already using, right? It doesn't make sense to go back and kind of reinvent the wheel and start over. And, right, we need to meet you where you're at. So that's kind of the goal. The goal of our program is to make sure that we're making those partnerships and that we're hearing the feedback of what you guys actually need and the information gaps that we can help fill. So I'll just run through a couple of examples of some things that NASA has going on right now, and some examples of how we've been able to successfully partner and put some of this really useful information into the hands of farmers, for example. I think my colleague Sarah Brennan will talk a little bit more about this, but we just wrapped up NASA's Space for Ag Tour. Our Earth Science Division Director, Karen St. Germain, thought it was really important, as we do, to go around and meet with farmers and kind of get some of your feedback on what are the biggest issues that you might be facing on your farm that NASA satellite data and private sector satellite data, commercial data, whatever it is, might be able to feed back and fill those information gaps so you can make better decisions. I've got a couple examples up here of some of the key points that we had heard from farmers. Lots of concern, as many have mentioned today, about fertilizer costs and application timing. We've heard a lot about needing some proof for the benefits of conservation practices. I think my colleague Laura has a great program running with PCM where they're starting to really hone in on that information. I think we need more of that. We can't very well ask you to take up cover cropping or no-till or whatever it is if it's going to negatively impact your bottom line. Millennials do live in reality. I will attest for my generation. We are working. We understand that everyone needs to work and make money. We've also heard that there's a strong interest in ET and soil moisture data and farm health. We've heard, of course, desire for better forecasting. I won't read down the rest of the list. I'm sure we can all read. So these are kind of the big points that we've gotten from talking to stakeholders. So starting back from square one, NASA has the resources, and we've been doing this for years, this kind of fundamental research realm, right? This isn't necessarily the things that are coming back to you yet, but it is the first step to making sure that we're providing the evidence base to support the transition from research to applications. So we focus a lot on long-term impacts of tillage. On the right-hand side, you will see a study from our colleagues at Stanford who analyzed, I think it's about 20 years of tillage impacts on farming systems. We also have a lot of research going on in the nutrient management space. We would like to have openly available tools for farmers to access to be able to plug in some scenarios on application timing and amounts, and then output kind of a result that you can use in your decision-making practices. And of course, yield forecasting is another big one that we're always working on right now in-house. We think we have 3 highly accurate yield forecasting models. So this is just some of kind of the research that's already been going on for a long time now. A couple of ways that we've been able to apply some of the research that we've been doing for so many years. I just wanted to pull up 2 examples here. Some of you may remember the 2020 derecho that kind of swept across Iowa, flattened a whole bunch of corn. Our friend Lance there sent us some pictures of his farm showing the damage. And we feel it's really, really important to have the frameworks in place when a severe weather event or something like this happens, to be able to get a quick and accurate picture of damage to your fields. For example, you could see how this might have great applications for quicker insurance payouts, as one example. But having these systems and research in place underlying that when something happens, we're able to quickly take action on it, provide statistics, and provide the numbers. On the left-hand side, you're looking at an example of one of our machine learning models. This one is showing disease detection at the field level. And this is another application that we've heard was important to, this is actually, I think, a farm in New York. The concern was, how do I know quickly and before the pests spread to the rest of my field, how can I go in and target prevention there? So this is a hotspot detection using satellite data. This has applications for pest detection. This one's mildew. But you could see how we can take this satellite data and actually make it something useful that you can go and make a decision or do some treatment based off of. And that's our job at Harvest, is to kind of make that transition. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about what we call our citizen science approaches. So, catchy term, but basically what this is the way that we partner with people. We think it's really important, as I've mentioned several times, to engage with stakeholders and fill an actual need, and to do it in ways that are scalable and repeatable in different locations. So what you're looking at here is an example of 2 of our kind of, we call them novel data collection programs, partnerships. On the right-hand side is our helmet labeling crops project, and we've partnered with, this one's an example from Africa, but we've partnered with extension agents who ride around on their motorcycles with GoPros attached to their helmets, and they take pictures of their fields. They send those back to us, and then we use that ground data to train our machine learning models. Now, how does that help you? Well, the better our models are, we can send them right back to you, and the better prediction you have. So that's one example of how we can do a partnership that can be scaled to other locations. We can do this anywhere. On the left-hand side, I want to talk a little bit about some of our education exchange partnerships that have been really successful, led by Estefania, actually. She's done a great job of this, but one of the ways that we've done this, this is an example from Argentina. We've partnered with a lot of rural high schools throughout the area, and we realized that there's not much access to education on remote sensing applications for agriculture in these very heavily agricultural-focused regions. So we partner with the schools. Our professors come up with courses, lessons, teach them how to use remote sensing, how to analyze the satellite data, and then the students at the end of the year go out and do some field data collection, and they do a final project where they analyze the data they've collected, and they learn about the applications for the satellite data. And then in turn, we are also able to use that ground data to help train our models, and it's just mutually beneficial for everyone involved. And I like to talk about those examples because those are kind of the real tangible ways that we're able to partner and put the data, the satellite data, the technology, all of these amazing tools back into your hands. I said it once, I'll say it again. It doesn't matter how cool, how robust, how accurate of a tool we've got. It doesn't matter how many scientists sitting behind their desks at NASA think it's a great thing, right? If you are not able to make an actual decision based on it, we recognize that there's no value in that resource. So I will end there. I think I'm well under my 15 minutes. All right. And I hope to answer your questions later.